If I say DuBois, most of you will think about your children and grandchildren who have spent a week at summer camp. While many camps are closing across the country, DuBois continues to create a wholesome, exciting, safe, and joyous place. What you don't see are the countless hours that volunteers work to maintain the camp. St. Paul volunteers and others from the conference go to camp from fall to spring, as in 2014. A crew began replacing the decking on the bridge over the gorge between Oak and Hickory Lodges. The boards had to be cut, then carried to those who replaced the planks. The old planks were carried back to be repurposed into shelters for firewood for fireplaces and campsite wiener roasts. Singing in the rain was their song, or at least whistling a happy tune, with only time to look up to see how long this bridge really was. Meanwhile, in Oak Lodge, preparations of materials were made to freshen up the bathrooms and to paint the stairway leading to the lower level recreation room. The detail painter was cutting in the difficult edges, while the game tables were moved out of the way. At the rustic bathhouse and infirmary, with the shingles torn off and a box of nails was passed up in order to finish roofing. Only the last task of trimming and cleaning up was yet to do. Breaking bread together with our community of volunteers was a good time to enjoy each other's company and to eat. A tranquil setting belied another pre-summer camper experience in 2016. There's always painting to do. Another crew started to bridge building. And did they just finish it? Or a little finish sanding on a new stairway, and one more handrail to install was all that was needed before these stairs were sturdy and stable enough for a photo op of the volunteer team. Are you beginning to recognize some of the faces? They are a community of volunteers from St. Paul and other parts of the conference who continue to help make DuBois a safe and fun place. In 2018, the back of the office needed some panels replaced. There's always painting to do. The new panels were painted and carried out to the drying area. While that was going on, old nails had to be pulled and the area prepped for the new panels before it rained. It seems that it always rains in DuBois. And it did rain the next day, but after the panels were up. Some of the cabins needed electrification. In each cabin, wiring was run to ceiling electrical boxes, light switches, and wall outlets. Modifications for mounting ceiling fans were also made. Another crew was working on painting the beach house. There's always painting to do. To make the stalls in the beach house, 2x4s had to be notched. The vertical framework had to be placed, while individual partitions and doors had to be measured and cut to size. The partitions were then guided into position on the top and bottom rails, and the changing stalls were completed and doors hung. Meanwhile, the conference crew finished the dock and got into position to launch it into the lake. 2020, COVID. Enough said about that. 2021 was the year that St. Paul painted the interior of the office. There's always painting to be done. Because of close quarters, no photos were taken, but think small house with a lot of walls. A relatively few number of volunteers got a lot accomplished in 2024. Shutters were warped and paint flaking off. Priming the cabins had already begun. There's always painting to do. 13 4x8 panels needed to be primed in one of the cabins where the primers could stay dry. The first morning it rained hard as the water poured off the roof. Rain gear wasn't perfect. The crew had changed to dry shirts for lunch, and shortly after lunch the rain stopped and work continued. Fascia was nailed into place. Soffit was cut and installed. Priming continued on the cabin walls. While some were doing fascia and soffit, other crews covered panel seams. Another crew began measuring and making the shutters and prop sticks used to keep them open. They had to make 32 shutters and prop sticks. The grooves needed to be hand-painted. There's always painting to do. Hanging the shutters was a three-person job. Two held and one screwed the shutter in place. Eventually, it was time to paint with a roller. And finally, the last bit of white was covered. Certainly a job well done. The last day crew picture does not show all of the 13 volunteers who worked any of the 4 days. Volunteer crews have been coming to DuBois for over 10 years. Some find time to look over a quiet body of water, and their minds may wander to their own memories of joy, or listen for the gentle spirit blowing through the leaves, providing tranquility and reminding us of God's creation and the need to nurture it for others. It is the joy of forming new friendships and reaffirming loving relationships. Realizing some relationships can still be joyful, though messy, and having the time to look closely or even looking from afar. It is part of one's journey. DuBois is a place to build a shelter or to find a shelter, a place to find a community or to find a new friend, or a cabin full of friends, a place to laugh with Dad or a place to sun with Mom, a place to be loved by one or a place to be loved by all. There's not just one way to show love. Like life, building faith is a journey. Sometimes it's a journey uphill and you have to pedal hard. Life is filled with joy in play and joy in working with familiar friends and joy in reacquainting with old friends. Whether we are starting our own faith journey or continuing on a challenging faith journey, it is sometimes sloppy. But we are not alone. We walk with friends. Welcome to DuBois.